The chill started in my bones, a creeping cold that no amount of blankets could ward off. My throat felt like I'd swallowed sandpaper, and every muscle in my 60-year-old body ached with a relentless pulsating throb. I was Stella, a retired school teacher, and I was battling the kind of flu that made you question every decision you'd ever made, starting with why I hadn't moved to Florida years ago. I lay in bed, the flimsy tissue of my shared home doing little to insulate me from the cacophony downstairs. The bass from Kyle's speakers vibrated through the floorboards, a relentless assault on my already pounding head. Another Friday night, another impromptu party. My son, Kyle, was a self-absorbed 20-something who lived by a simple creed. If he wasn't having fun, he wasn't living. And if anyone else's discomfort stood in the way of his fun, well, that was their problem. He was oblivious to my suffering, as usual. His world revolved around casual flings and the fleeting adoration of whoever was currently draped over his worn sofa. I could hear his booming laughter, the high-pitched giggles of some new girl, the clinking of bottles. He was preoccupied with organizing a party, as if the very universe revolved around his social calendar. I coughed, a deep rattling sound that tore at my chest. My head swam. I needed a doctor. I probably needed an IV, but getting out of bed felt like scaling Everest. A few minutes later, the music volume dipped slightly, replaced by Kyle's voice, closer now, at the foot of the stairs. Mom? You alive up there? People are arriving! I managed a raspy groan. Kyle, I'm really sick. I think I need to see a doctor. There was a pause, a moment where I foolishly hoped for a flicker of concern. Then the sound of footsteps on the creaking stairs. He appeared in my doorway, looking impossibly fresh in a crisp t-shirt and perfectly styled hair, his phone already glued to his ear. He didn't come closer. He didn't ask how I felt. He just stood there, framed by the doorway, looking annoyed. Seriously? Now? He sighed, clearly talking to someone on the phone. He rolled his eyes, a gesture so familiar it no longer stung, just settled into the dull ache of resignation. He briefly pulled the phone away from his ear. Look, Mom, the house is about to be packed. Can't you just, take some Tylenol or something? Kyle, I can barely breathe. I rasped, pulling the blanket tighter around my chin, despite the fever that made my skin feel too hot. I think it's more than a cold, he scoffed, shaking his head. Always so dramatic. Fine, fine. Just go get it handled. I need the living room clear. He rummaged in his jeans pocket, pulled out a crumpled bill, and tossed it onto my nightstand. It landed with a soft, dismissive flutter. It was a $20 bill. $20 for a doctor's visit, for a taxi, for prescriptions. It wouldn't even cover the copay. He might as well have thrown me a nickel. He had casually tossed me a $20 bill for a doctor's visit and ushered me out, prioritizing his social life over my well-being. Just go, he said, turning back to his phone. I've got people coming for the pregame. I need to get this set up. He disappeared, the bass instantly thumping louder, swallowing his words. I lay there, staring at the crumpled bill. My heart ached, a pain far deeper than the flu. It wasn't the money. I had my pension, my savings, meager compared to what my late husband and I once had. But enough. It was the absolute casual indifference, the utter lack of care. My only child, and I was less important than his next casual fling, less significant than the music thumping through the floorboards. Battling a fever and crushing fatigue, I quietly endured the slight. Every fiber of my being screamed for rest, for comfort, for a sympathetic hand on my forehead. Instead, I had Kyle's booming party, his utter disregard for my well-being. The realization settled heavy in my chest. I was truly alone. My husband, bless his soul, had been gone for 15 years. He would have never, ever treated me like this. Slowly, painfully, I pushed myself up. My head spun, and a wave of nausea washed over me. I stumbled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. Looking in the mirror, I saw a woman I barely recognized, pale, drawn, with tired eyes that held a deep, unvarnished loneliness. This wasn't just about the flu anymore. This was about a pattern, a lifetime of putting Kyle first, of sacrificing my own desires for his perceived needs, only to be tossed aside like an inconvenience. I put on the warmest sweater I could find, pulled a hat low over my ears, and grabbed my worn purse. The $20 bill lay on the nightstand, an insultingly small token of my son's affection. I left it there. I'd use my own money. The principle of it, however small, mattered. As I made my way downstairs, the party was already in full swing. The living room, usually meticulously neat, was now a whirlwind of spilled drinks, loud chatter, and bodies pressed too close together. Kyle, laughing loudly, was holding court with a giggling blonde on his lap. He didn't even see me. He didn't need to. I was already a ghost in my own home. I pushed open the front door and stepped out into the crisp evening air of our bustling American city. The sudden cold hit me like a physical blow, making me cough violently. I leaned against the porch railing, my head throbbing, tears stinging my eyes, not just from the cold, but from the searing pain of his indifference. Where did I go from here? The nearest urgent care clinic was a good 20-minute walk, and I could barely stand. A sudden, overwhelming feeling of vulnerability washed over me. I had always been strong, independent, a survivor, but right now I felt utterly, completely helpless and alone. The ache in my heart was far worse than the ache in my body. This wasn't how my life was supposed to be. This wasn't the reward for a lifetime of maternal devotion. I closed my eyes, battling the fever and the crushing fatigue. I just needed someone, anyone. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt a desperate, almost primal need for a kindness that Kyle simply could not or would not offer. The decision I made next, born of that desperate need, would utterly change the course of my life, a surprise even to myself. The walk to the local clinic was a blur of misery. Every step sent a jolt of pain through my aching joints, and the biting wind made my feverish shivers worse. The fluorescent lights inside the waiting room seemed to amplify my headache, and the air hummed with the coughs and sniffles of other weary patients. I slumped into a hard plastic chair, overwhelmed and disheartened, feeling utterly alone. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, listening to my own ragged breathing, the muffled announcements from the reception desk, and the constant throbbing behind my eyes. My $20 bill sat crumpled in my pocket, a stark reminder of Kyle's indifference. A bitter laugh escaped my lips, a dry, painful sound. This was my reality. This was the consequence of putting everyone else first for so long. My hand instinctively reached for my phone. My fingers hovered over my contacts. Who could I call? My closest friends were scattered across the country, enjoying their own golden years, far from the cold reality of my flu-ridden present. Then my thumb paused on a name, Ethan, a kind old friend from my past. A decade prior, he had almost been erased from it. I remembered it vividly. A blazing summer day, a community beach cleanup. Ethan, always adventurous, had waded out too far, caught in an unexpected rip current. I, a strong swimmer in my younger days, had seen his struggle, heard his desperate cry, and, without thinking, plunged in. It was a terrifying few minutes, battling the powerful current, fighting to keep his head above water until we were both pulled in by lifeguards. He had nearly drowned. I had saved him. Since that day, we had maintained a quiet, supportive friendship. Emails, occasional phone calls, a Christmas card every year. He lived a few states over, a retired engineer with a booming laugh and an even bigger heart. He had been a widower for years, much like me, though his grief had mellowed differently than mine. Ethan had often expressed a desire for me to remarry, gently hinting at his own feelings, offering his companionship. Stella, he'd say over the phone, his voice warm, you deserve happiness. You've given so much. Your husband, God rest his soul, wouldn't want you to be alone. But I had always refused for Kyle's sake. I told myself I needed to be here for him, to provide a stable home, to ensure he had a solid foundation. The truth was, after my husband passed, Kyle was my whole world, my purpose. I couldn't imagine a life that didn't revolve around him. But now, facing abandonment by my son in my moment of need, all those carefully constructed reasons crumbled. Kyle had pushed me out, uncaring. The image of him, laughing with his friends downstairs, flashed in my mind. He hadn't even looked back. In this sterile, lonely waiting room, with a fever clouding my mind, I yearned for someone, anyone, to be by my side, someone who actually cared. My finger trembled, then pressed call. It rang twice before his familiar, cheerful voice answered. Stella, to what do I owe this unexpected pleasure? Ethan, I croaked, my voice barely a whisper. It's, it's Stella. I'm not well. The dam broke. My carefully held composure shattered, and a sob escaped, tears stinging my already burning eyes. Stella, what's wrong? You sound terrible. Where are you? His voice instantly shifted, sharp with concern, tinged with alarm. The urgent care clinic, I choked out, trying to rein in my emotions. I have the flu, really bad, and Kyle. I couldn't finish the sentence. The shame, the hurt, was too overwhelming. Kyle, what? He pressed, his voice firm now. Did he do something? Stella, tell me. He threw me out, I whispered, the words tasting bitter. He's having a party. He just gave me $20 and told me to leave. A furious silence met my words. Then Ethan's voice, low and dangerous, vibrated through the phone. That ungrateful boy. Stella, listen to me. Don't move. Don't take a step. I'm coming to get you. Where are you exactly? I gave him the address, my hand trembling as I held the phone. Ethan, you don't have to. It's a long drive. Don't be ridiculous, he snapped, but the anger was directed at Kyle, not me. You saved my life, Stella. The least I can do is make sure you don't wither away in a public clinic. I'll be there as fast as I can. Just sit tight. He hung up, leaving me with the comforting echo of his resolute voice. Hope, a fragile, unfamiliar feeling, began to unfurl in my chest. True to his word, it wasn't long before a sleek black sedan pulled up to the curb outside the clinic. I watched as Ethan emerged, a tall, distinguished figure in his late 60s, with a shock of silver hair and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He looked worried, his usual jovial demeanor replaced by a determined frown. He walked straight into the waiting room, his gaze sweeping over the tired faces until he found me. His eyes softened immediately. He strode over, bypassing the exasperated receptionists and their mountains of paperwork. He gently took my hand, his touch warm and firm. Stella, he said, his voice quiet but full of genuine concern. You look awful. I managed a weak smile. Thanks, Ethan. You too. He chuckled softly, then helped me to my feet, steadying me as my legs threatened to give out. We're not waiting here, he declared, leading me towards the exit. But my turn, I began. Nonsense. He waved a dismissive hand. You're going to a real hospital, the best one. And without a moment's delay, Ethan quickly arrived and whisked her away to the city's best private hospital. The ride was a blur. He spoke calmly, reassuringly, asking about my symptoms, never once judging, never once bringing up Kyle. He was simply there, a rock, a steadfast presence. The private hospital was a world away from the dreary clinic, a hushed, elegant lobby, compassionate nurses, and doctors who listened intently. Ethan was a whirlwind of efficiency, handling all the paperwork, speaking with the doctors, ensuring I received immediate attention. He stayed by my side through the initial tests, holding my hand, offering quiet comfort. It was the first time in years I felt truly cared for, truly protected. The contrast to Kyle's callous dismissal was stark, painful, and eye-opening. As the IV dripped life-giving fluids into my arm and the fever began to recede, I looked at Ethan, sitting patiently by my bedside, reading a newspaper. He glanced up, met my gaze, and offered a soft, comforting smile. In that moment, I knew I had made the right call, and perhaps I had been wrong about a great many things for a very long time. The hum of the hospital, initially a symbol of my weakness, became a comforting cocoon. The soft linens, the regular visits from the kind nurses, the quiet efficiency of the doctors. It was a stark contrast to the chaos and neglect of my home. After a few days of expert care, the fever finally broke. The aches subsided. My strength slowly, surely returned. I was on the mend. But even as my body healed, my heart remained wary. I kept glancing at my phone, a foolish hope flickering. Not a single call, not a single text. Kyle still hadn't made a single attempt to contact me. He hadn't checked if I was alive, much less if I was recovering. The reality of his complete indifference settled deep within me, cold and unyielding. It was the final, undeniable proof that his world had no room for my needs. During my recovery, Ethan was a constant, comforting presence. He visited every day, bringing flowers, lighthearted magazines, and a steady stream of engaging conversation. He'd sit by my bedside, his large hand often resting reassuringly over mine, telling stories that made me chuckle despite my lingering weakness. He brought me my favorite coffee from the little shop across the street, just the way I liked it. He didn't hover, didn't pry, but simply was there, a quiet, steadfast anchor in my tumultuous sea. One afternoon, as the setting sun cast a warm glow through the hospital window, Ethan cleared his throat. I was feeling much better, sitting up, even managed to walk a bit. He looked at me, his eyes gentle, brimming with a warmth that felt like sunshine after a long winter. "Stella," he began, his voice soft, "I've been doing a lot of thinking these past few days, seeing you here, seeing how alone you've been, even with a son in the next room. It just solidifies what I've felt for a long time." My heart began to pound. I knew where this was going. I'd seen it in his eyes, felt it in his touch, in the unspoken tenderness he extended. "I know it's not the right place, or perhaps the right time," he continued, a slight tremor in his voice. "But life's too short, Stella. We're not getting any younger. You deserve happiness, real happiness, not just survival." He reached across the bed and took both my hands in his. His grip was firm, reassuring. Ethan, seeing my vulnerability and sensing my need for genuine companionship, proposed marriage. "Stella, my dear," he said, looking directly into my eyes, his own filled with a sincerity that was breathtaking. "Will you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Let me take care of you. Let me share my life with you. Let us find joy together for whatever time we have left." The question hung in the air, weighty and profound. My mind raced. For years I had dismissed the idea of remarriage. My husband had been gone for so long, and my life had become so intertwined with Kyle's. I had believed it was my duty to remain single, to be solely dedicated to my son. I had convinced myself that any new relationship would disrupt his life, take away from his inheritance, make him feel less important. I had sacrificed my own companionship, my own desires, for his sake. But then, the raw memory of Kyle's indifference, the $20 bill, the party blaring through the floorboards while I lay alone and sick, flooded my mind. He hadn't even called, not once. He had proven unequivocally that he didn't need my sacrifices. He didn't even want them. He just wanted my house, my space, my quiet absence. A wave of profound clarity washed over me. I had given so much for so long to a person who clearly didn't appreciate it or even notice it. And here was Ethan, a man who had shown me more genuine care in 3 days than Kyle had in years. He valued me. He saw me. I looked at Ethan's earnest face, his kind eyes. The loneliness I had carried for so long, the fear of growing old alone, began to recede. Here was companionship, respect, love, a chance for a second act, a chance for my happiness. After a moment of profound hesitation, a silent battle between years of ingrained self-sacrifice and a newfound longing for self-preservation, I finally agreed. Yes, Ethan, I whispered, tears welling in my eyes. Yes, I will. A radiant smile lit up his face. He squeezed my hands, then leaned forward and gently kissed my forehead. You won't regret it, Stella. I promise. 2 days later, released from the hospital, I felt stronger, both physically and emotionally. Ethan drove me home. As we pulled up to the house, the familiar dread returned for a split second, then quickly faded, replaced by a quiet resolve. This wasn't my home anymore, not really. It was just a place where I needed to collect my things. The front door was unlocked, as usual. The faint smell of stale beer and cheap perfume hung in the air. As I stepped inside, the remnants of another raucous party were evident. Empty cans, pizza boxes, discarded clothing. Kyle was sprawled on the sofa, seemingly asleep, a new unfamiliar girl curled up beside him. He barely stirred as we walked past. I'll help you pack, Ethan murmured, his voice low, his arm gently circling my back. Thank you, I replied. We went to my room. I didn't need much. Just my clothes, some personal effects, and the cherished mementos that held the true meaning of my past. Old photo albums, a small collection of my late husband's favorite books, my mother's worn recipe box. These were the things that truly mattered, not the furniture, not the house. As I was packing a box of old photographs, Kyle finally stirred. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, looking disoriented. His gaze fell on Ethan, then on the half-packed boxes. His eyes narrowed. Mom, what's going on? He demanded, his voice thick with sleep and annoyance. Who's he? What are you doing? I turned to face him, my voice calm, devoid of the emotion I might have once poured into such a confrontation. Kyle, this is Ethan. He's a friend. I paused, then delivered the news that would irrevocably alter our dynamic. And I'm leaving. I'm moving. His jaw dropped. He actually laughed, a harsh, disbelieving sound. Moving? Mom, where would you go? You're not actually going to leave, are you? You wouldn't last a week on your own. His tone was arrogant, scoffing, filled with the certainty that I was bluffing, that I was simply seeking attention. He had always seen me as dependent, a background figure in his life. He challenged me, openly and cruelly. You wouldn't last on your own, he repeated, a sneer on his face. This is your home. What, is this old guy gonna take you in? He's probably after your pension. Ethan tensed beside me, but I put a hand on his arm, a silent signal. This was my moment. My words to Kyle were not about anger or recrimination, but about quiet dignity and the truth. Kyle, I said, my voice steady, my gaze unwavering. I'm not asking for your permission, and I'm not looking for your approval. You're an adult now. You're over 21. You've made your choices, and I've made mine. I looked around the messy living room, at the remnants of his party, at his arrogant, unconcerned face, the weight of years of sacrificing for him, of carrying his burdens, lifted entirely. From this day forward, I continued, my voice clear and firm, I will no longer intervene in his life. Your life is yours to live. Your decisions are yours to make, and the consequences are yours to face. I'm moving to a different state, Kyle. With Ethan, we're going to start a new life together. His face registered genuine shock, followed quickly by a flash of rage. But I didn't wait for his next outburst. I turned, picked up a final box, and walked out the door, Ethan by my side. The keys to the house, which had once felt like a burden, now felt light in my hand. I placed them on the small table by the door, a symbolic gesture of release. As I stepped onto the porch, leaving the chaotic house and the stunned, angry boy behind, I took a deep breath. The air, crisp and cool, filled my lungs. It was a new beginning, and for the first time in a very long time, I was choosing myself. The open road stretched before us, a ribbon of asphalt unspooling towards a future I hadn't dared to dream of. The rearview mirror showed my old life, my old house, and a confused, angry Kyle shrinking into the distance. Beside me, Ethan hummed along to the radio, his hand resting warmly on my knee. I moved to a different state with Ethan, starting a new life filled with love and mutual respect. We chose a charming little town in North Carolina, nestled among rolling hills, a world away from the relentless concrete and noise of the city. Our new home was a quaint, sun-drenched cottage with a sprawling garden, a space for new beginnings. We spent our first weeks painting walls, arranging furniture, and discovering local diners that served the best sweet tea. Ethan was a joy to live with, considerate, kind, and always ready with a witty remark or a comforting hug. For the first time in years, I felt a lightness in my step, a genuine smile reaching my eyes. The constant anxiety about Kyle, about his next misstep, about needing to fix his problems, began to recede, replaced by a profound sense of peace. Over a month later, Kyle, finally realizing I was truly gone, attempted to contact me. My phone, which had been blissfully silent on his end, began to buzz with calls and texts. At first, they were demanding, then increasingly bewildered. Mom, where are you? Why isn't anyone answering at the house? Mom, I need something. Call me back. Mom, seriously, this isn't funny. Where did you go? Ethan had advised me on how to handle it. He's not contacting you out of concern, Stella, he'd said gently. He's contacting you because his routine's been disrupted. He expects you to be there. We decided on a simple, firm boundary. My calls and texts were met with a simple, polite message pre-written by Ethan, though it felt liberating to send it. Your mother is well and happy. Please respect her privacy as she begins a new chapter. The messages became more sporadic. Kyle's attempts quickly dwindled. He'd call a few times, then forget about me for months, contacting me only a few times a year. Sometimes it was a birthday text, obviously a last-minute thought. Sometimes a vague, open-ended question like, "Everything okay?" No apologies, no genuine interest in my life, just perfunctory acknowledgments. I'd reply with a brief, pleasant update, always ending with the subtle reinforcement of my new boundaries. My life now was mine. And I, meanwhile, truly flourished. My days were filled with new routines, new interests. Ethan and I joined a local book club, took long walks in the nearby state park, and even started a small pottery class. I rediscovered hobbies I'd abandoned years ago, buried under the weight of motherhood and unspoken obligations. My garden thrived under my care, mirroring the blossoming of my own spirit. Our life together was peaceful and fulfilling. He listened intently when I spoke, celebrated my small triumphs, and offered quiet comfort on the rare occasions when a pang of old worry about Kyle still struck. I finally let go of my excessive worries about Kyle. The endless what ifs that had plagued me for decades began to fade. Then, about 6 months after my move, a call came through from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer it. Mom, is that you? Kyle's voice, raspy and edged with something I couldn't quite place, came through. It wasn't the usual demand. There was a vulnerability in it, a touch of desperation that sent a familiar flicker of maternal instinct through me, immediately followed by a firm mental pushback. Kyle, I said, my voice calm and even. Yes, it's me. How are you? Mom, I need help, he blurted out, without preamble. It's bad, really bad. My heart gave a little lurch. This was it. The call I'd always dreaded. The one I had simultaneously feared and prepared for. The shoe was dropping. What's wrong, Kyle? I asked, my voice still steady. Ethan, who was in the kitchen, paused, his head cocked, sensing the shift in my tone. The house, Mom, he stammered. They're, they're taking it. I don't know what happened. There were always bills, but suddenly they're saying I haven't paid taxes in months, and there's this massive outstanding utility bill. And, and they found some stuff in the basement, illegal stuff, from those parties. Someone called the police. My mind raced. Taxes, utility bills? I had always managed all of that. When I left, I assumed he'd eventually take over, or at least deal with the notices. But I knew his organizational skills were non-existent, and his sense of responsibility even more so. The illegal stuff from parties? That was new, but not entirely surprising given the crowd he ran with. They're evicting me, Mom, he pleaded, his voice cracking. I have nowhere to go. All my stuff. Everything's going to be thrown out. They said I could be charged. The old Stella, the one who would have jumped on the next flight, the one who would have immediately started calculating how to fix it, how to protect him, felt a sharp pang. But the new Stella, the one who had finally learned to prioritize her own well-being, remained resolute. Kyle, I said, my voice still calm, I told you when I left that you were an adult, that your choices were yours and the consequences were yours to face. I also left you with a fully paid-off house for months after I moved, assuming you would, at the very least, handle the basic upkeep and bills. But, Mom, I didn't know how, he wailed. You always did it, and the parties. They just got a little out of hand sometimes. Please, Mom, you have to help me. What am I going to do? I took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth, the culmination of my promise to myself, my promise to Ethan. Kyle, I said, the words heavy with finality. I'm sorry you're in this situation, but I cannot help you. I made a commitment to myself, to my new life. I am no longer intervening. A stunned silence met my words. Then his voice rose, incredulous, bordering on hysterical. You can't help me? I'm your son. You're just going to let me be homeless? After everything? After everything, yes, I stated, my voice unwavering. You chose your path. I chose mine. I hope you find a way to take responsibility and build a better life for yourself, Kyle, but I won't be doing it for you anymore. I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end, stunned. You're serious, he whispered, a chilling realization in his voice. You're actually not coming. You're actually leaving me. I did leave, Kyle, months ago. I told you I would. I reminded him gently. And I'm not looking back. I truly wish you well. I could hear him take another ragged breath. Then the line went dead. He had hung up. The call, while difficult, didn't leave me with the expected guilt. Instead, a profound quiet settled over me. It was done. The last tether, frayed and strained, had finally snapped. Ethan walked in then, his face concerned. "Everything all right?" he asked. I looked at him, truly looked at him, this kind, steadfast man who had shown me what true companionship felt like. "Yes, Ethan," I said, a small, genuine smile forming on my lips. "Everything is perfectly all right." And for the first time in my life, I truly believed it. The old Stella would have been consumed by guilt and worry. The new Stella felt a profound, liberating peace. The phone call with Kyle had been agonizing, a final necessary cut. But in its aftermath, I felt an unexpected liberation. I no longer agonized over Kyle's well-being or what might happen to him without my constant oversight. The frantic worry that had been a low hum in my life for decades finally faded into silence. It was a silence filled with peace, not guilt. I consciously shifted my focus to myself and my happiness with Ethan, embracing a life where my needs were prioritized. This wasn't selfishness, it was self-preservation. It was the realization that my own cup needed to be full before I could offer anything to anyone else. And for so long, Kyle had simply emptied it, without ever refilling it. My days with Ethan were a revelation. We explored our new town, discovering hidden antique shops and quaint cafes. We gardened together, his practical engineering mind complementing my love for Flora. We cooked, we laughed, we talked for hours about everything and nothing. His steady, unwavering presence was the anchor I never knew I needed. He celebrated my small joys, comforted my lingering anxieties, and saw me, truly saw me, for the first time in years. I learned that true maternal love sometimes means setting boundaries, allowing adult children to face the consequences of their own choices. It was a harsh lesson, one learned through immense pain, but it was vital. My attempts to shield Kyle had only enabled his irresponsibility. By stepping back, I was, paradoxically, giving him the truest gift, the chance to learn, to grow, to finally become the self-sufficient adult he was supposed to be. Whether he took that chance was entirely up to him. My responsibility was to myself now. My new chapter with Ethan was a testament to finding love and peace later in life. We took a road trip along the coast, something I'd always dreamed of, but never had the time or permission to do. We visited national parks, hiked gentle trails, and watched sunsets over the ocean. Every shared experience solidified the profound joy and contentment I now felt. This genuine happiness often came from prioritizing my own well-being and finding steadfast companionship rather than clinging to past obligations or unreciprocated sacrifices. Kyle's calls dwindled to nothing more than a few times a year. A text on my birthday, usually generic. A brief, almost bored-sounding voicemail around the holidays. He rarely asked about my life, and I rarely offered details. My standard reply remained the same, a quiet mantra of my new existence. I am well and happy. I no longer lost sleep wondering if he had a roof over his head or food on his table. I knew he was navigating life on his own terms, for better or worse. And for the first time, I allowed myself to fully detach from the outcome. The freedom was exhilarating. I found a part-time job at the local library, indulging my love for books and connecting with the community. Ethan joined a woodworking club, crafting beautiful pieces for our home. We built a life together, brick by brick, moment by moment, on a foundation of mutual respect and genuine affection. The message I received on a random Tuesday, a little over a year after I moved, was the most telling. It wasn't from Kyle, but from one of his old college friends, a kind young man named David whom I'd always liked. He simply texted, "Hey Stella, just wanted to let you know, Kyle landed a steady job finally. driving for a logistics company, and he's got his own place now. Small, but his. Says he's doing okay. I felt a small, quiet sigh of relief. Not jubilation, not the overwhelming joy I might once have anticipated. Just a simple, profound sense of peace. He was finding his way. He wasn't lost, and I didn't have to save him. He had saved himself, or at least started the process, in my absence. My own life, though, was full. It was richer than I could have ever imagined. I looked at Ethan across our cozy living room, bathed in the soft glow of the fireplace. He smiled, and I smiled back, a true, unrestrained smile that reached my eyes and crinkled the corners. I had traded a lifetime of worry for a peaceful, fulfilling present. I had given my all, and now I was finally receiving. My real legacy wasn't in what I sacrificed, but in the happiness I built for myself. And so, Stella's journey, from quiet self sacrifice to vibrant self discovery, concludes. Her story is a poignant reminder that it's never too late to choose your own happiness, set healthy boundaries, and embrace the love and peace you truly deserve. If Stella's resilience, her courageous decision to prioritize herself, and her inspiring new beginning resonated with you, please consider giving this story a like. Your support helps us share narratives that explore the profound lessons learned later in life and the transformative power of self-worth. For more heartfelt stories about personal growth, unexpected second chances, and the beautiful complexities of family, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We genuinely invite you to comment below with your thoughts on Stella's choices, your own experiences with setting boundaries, or any insights this tale may have sparked within you. We truly value your feedback and appreciate every single comment. Thank you for joining us on Stella's second act. We look forward to connecting with you again.